Well, TBC was all over this one. Number 29 on WTBC's playlist. This is one scintillating record that just fell through the cracks. A forgotten 45. It shouldn't have been forgotten, but it is. Buffalo Springfield, Rock and Roll Woman. It was their runner-up to their first hit. It was their runner-up to their huge summer '67 hit, For What It's Worth, which was written by Stephen Stills. Now, the interesting thing about that record was it wasn't a war protest song per se. Stephen Stills wrote that record when he saw the police. They were beating up this crowd of young people that had gathered at the Sunset Strip. They were protesting the closing of a nightclub, one of the famous nightclubs in L.A. called Pandora's Box. That's what inspired the song For What It's Worth by Stephen Stills when he wrote that record. It was a huge hit. See, the thing For What It's Worth, it was after it was written and the group kind of put it together, they performed the song live at Whiskey A Go Go. And they performed live a lot at the Whiskey A Go Go, another legendary club in Los Angeles. Several days later, they recorded the song, and then, well, not long after that, KHJ, Los Angeles' foremost top 40 radio station in the 60s, they got on it, and it blew up for Buffalo Springfield For What It's Worth. The album that came after that was called Buffalo Springfield Again. Now, there was some tension, supposedly some tension in this group. Neil Young wasn't there on on some of the sessions, and Bruce Palmer, their bass player, he was out for most of that session. He was busted for drug charges, so they used some session musicians from the Los Angeles area to play on the album. But man, oh God. This album yielded some fantastic records. Miss Bluebird was one of them. One of the best by Stephen Stills. Mr. Soul by Neil Young. Yes, on that album. One of my favorite records back in the day. Mr. Soul by Neil Young on that album. And Rock and Roll Woman. Now, Rock and Roll Woman, it was recorded in a six-week period in the summer of 1967. And Stephen Stills singing it. And he wrote it. Although David Crosby, although not credited, supposedly co-wrote the melody to Rock and Roll Woman by Buffalo Springfield. Oh darn, I forgot to check the chart position on Rock and Roll Woman, but I do know it didn't make top 40. 47 or something like that. I might write it down on my thing on Facebook when I put it on my Facebook page. Buffalo Springfield just launched a career. Well, it launched a career of several people. Stephen Stills, Neil Young, and Richie Fury. And when they got together to Buffalo Springfield, they played for a 6-week period in the spring of 1966 at the Whiskey A Go Go in Los Angeles. I cannot even begin to tell you what this was big. I mean, Whiskey A Go Go in Los Angeles, a huge nightclub. Buffalo Springfield, gosh, Rock and Roll Woman. Still love it after all these years. Number 29, the week of October 27th, 1967.